everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Today I want to talk about going motorcycling on your own, doing a solo motorcycle tour. Now, I know I've made a video previously, and I'll put a link at the end, of why you should go touring generally, why you should do more of it. But motorcycling touring on your own is a different discipline, and what I want to do today is I want to talk about why people probably don't do it, and particularly why you should do it, because it's good for you. It's good for your mental health, it's good for creative thinking, it's good for lots of things. And if you've not done it before, then maybe this video will address some of your concerns. So why wouldn't you go motorcycle touring on your own? And I've talked to lots of people about this sort of subject at motorcycle cafes and generally, and they would say, well, I like to go with my mates. And if you like to go with your mates, that's absolutely fine. You know, I'm not knocking going on holiday with more than one person. I mean, I go on holiday with more than one person. But they'll say, no, I like to go with my mates. You know, I don't really want to go motorcycle touring on my own. Or they might say, well, I get lonely on my own. And I get that. You know, I mean, when I do motorcycle touring on my own, and I've done a lot on my own, sometimes I do get lonely. I don't mind being on my own, but I don't really like being lonely. But there are moments when you are a bit lonely. But they are literally moments, because something else will come along, some other thought will come into your mind, and you'll be going down a different road in your head, and everything's fine again. And then other concerns people have, well, what if I break down? You know, I'm on my own, I break down. Well, I mean, most motorcycles, generally speaking today, are pretty reliable. I mean, touch wood, I've never broken down on a motorcycle, and I've done, well, probably 200,000 miles touring, and I've never had a breakdown yet, thankfully. And even if you do break down and you're on your own, the chances are you've got a mobile phone, the chances are you're not far from other humans, and generally speaking, people are quite nice. You know, I mean, humans are actually quite nice. It's only the ones that are in the papers that are not very nice. And another thing that people say to me is, oh, my wife wouldn't let me. And I think the fear of being on your own and breaking down and all the rest of it is sort of, in some cases, linked to this, oh, my wife wouldn't let me. Because I would think, well, have you actually asked your wife, or husband, whether they would let you? They would let you? You know, I struggle with this sort of concept of needing permission to go and do something you enjoy. Because my take on it is that if you are, you know, with someone in a marriage or some other relationship, that you care for this person, and presumably they care for you, then they would want you to be happy, presumably. And therefore, if you wanted to do something within the realms of reason that gave you pleasure, why would they stop you doing it? You know, why would they say, you know, you're not doing that? I don't get that. You know, my wife goes scuba diving. I'm not interested in scuba diving. And when she says to me, oh, I'm thinking of going to Thailand or the Red Sea or wherever, or Cozumel in Mexico to do some diving, I say, great, when are you going? You know, that sounds great. Who are you going with? How long are you going for? Because I know she enjoys it. And when I say to her, you know, I want to go and ride to the Black Sea because I fancy having a swim, which I did in May 23, she said that sounds fantastic. Because if you care for someone and you care for their happiness, why would you stop them from doing something that gives them pleasure? So I think the my wife wouldn't let me thing falls into two issues. One, you're either married to the wrong person, or two, you're using it as a very convenient hook as to why you won't do this or don't want to do this. Another thing that comes up is, well, what would I do when I stop? You know, what am I going to do with myself? Well, you think, well, what you need to do is think about how you're going to do this. And I'll give you some pointers later on in the video. There's nothing wrong with stopping and doing nothing. There's no, doing nothing is good for you. Doing nothing promotes creative thinking. Another thing that people say to me is, oh, I'm too, and when they're being honest, they'll say, I'm too anxious to go on my own. You know, I'd get worried about stuff. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with being anxious. You know, when I go on a tour on my own, I am anxious. You know, I might break down. What if I can't find fuel? What if I can't speak the language? What if I haven't got any money? What if my phone doesn't work? You know, there's like 10 million what ifs as to why you will not do something and you might get anxious about it. And there's nothing wrong with being anxious. You know, when I do my theatre work and I perform on stage, every night before a performance, I'm anxious. And that's a good thing because it keeps you sharp. So there's nothing wrong with being anxious. Don't be frightened of being anxious about it. So in terms of, you know, why should you do solo motorcycling? I mean, first of all, for most people, it is going to push them out of their comfort zone. And being pushed out of your comfort zone is a good thing because it helps you realise, it helps you understand that you can be independent, that you can do things that other people don't or won't do. And that's a good thing. You know, doing something for the first time and certainly then doing it subsequently is good for you. When you are touring alone, you're on your own. And that being alone gives you choices. I've travelled globally, only on this planet, with my work. I've done thousands of flights and spent many months collectively in departure lounges on my own. And being alone gives you choices because you can be alone. You can just sit there, put a bit of music on and just watch the world go round, which is a fascinating thing to do, I have to say. Or you can read a book, nothing wrong with reading a book, or you can talk to someone. You know, you can talk to another human, you can engage with another human. And you'd be surprised at how widely spoken English is globally. You know, I've sat and enjoyed an ice cream with a guy in Romania who spoke very little English, and it was a lovely interaction, you know, with another human being. And he was on his own, I was on my own. It was lovely. We came together, spent 10 minutes together, and then we parted, and it was a lovely thing. And you get that choice. You get that choice by being on your own. When you're in a couple or you're in a group, you're less approachable and you're less likely to approach people to engage with. So the benefits of being alone in that situation are manifest. Being alone promotes creative thinking. You know, how many times have you've got a problem at work or you've got a problem somewhere and you're doing something completely unrelated to this problem and suddenly you'll get the solution because you're not focusing on it. And being alone promotes creative thinking. You know, and don't just take my word for it. You know, ask any much more qualified person than me about this and they will tell you the same thing. It's good for you. And also, on the trip, you're going for the ride. It's not about the destination. You know, people often think too much about, well, I'm going to get up in the morning, I'll have my breakfast at the hotel or the campsite, wherever I'm at, and I'll go for the ride and then I'll get to where I'm going. You think, well, yeah, but where you're going is not the important bit. The important bit is the journey. You know, it's about the journey. It's about this engagement of you as an individual and the machine and the road and this sort of interaction between the three that puts you in the zone of being able to be with your own thoughts, you know. And so if you're going to do this, and I strongly recommend you do, think about how your day is going to be. Plan your day. Plan your day in chunks. So this is the way I do it, okay? I almost always stay in a hotel, and they don't have to be expensive. And I will have a good breakfast. And then wherever I'm going, you know, I know where my destination is because I've booked another hotel, but that's just the way I do it. Although in subsequent tours, I'm probably not going to book a destination hotel. I'll just ride till about 3 or 4 o'clock and think, well, where do I want to be in 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll book a hotel there. But anyway, so I know where I'm going. I've got, say, 350 miles of riding. The Garmin has worked out a route for me that's going to be interesting, and if it hasn't, I've worked it out on my own. And then I'll have breakfast and I'll set off. And I like to have lunch. And the reason I like to have lunch is because, firstly, I'm happier. My metabolism is happier eating less in the evening. And also, you tend not to sleep too well if you eat too much in the evening. But also because I don't want to be at my destination at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and think, well, what am I going to do now? Which is one of the things that people say. What I want to do is I want to get to my destination at about 6:30, and so I can then check into my hotel and I can have a shower and I'm sort of tidied up and clean, and by 7:30, and then if I want to go out for a beer, I'll go out for a beer, or I'll just go for a walk. I've been on the bike all day. It's a good idea to just go for a walk. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So plan your day. Think about how you're going to do it. Break it down into chunks, because if you look at the day as a whole, it'll be too onerous. You'll think, oh, jeepers, all I've got to do is just ride and then stop, and then what am I going to do? So, chunks. Breakfast, ride, lunch, and you can have a long lunch. I mean, you go to Spain, you might be sitting there 2 hours. Nice ride in the afternoon, get to where you're going, check in, shower, and then also you need to plan your next day. So by the time if you're ready to go out and hit the bars at 7:30, you've got maybe 3 hours, roughly, depending on how you plan your life, to think about the next day. So that's what you need to do, in my opinion. That's the way I do it. And the thing is that when you are on your own and you're not riding your bike, we are constantly distracted by technology. Everyone has got a mobile phone, and it does everything. This computer that we've got in our pocket, which is so powerful, that we can do so many things with it. And how often do you see a group of people, like doctors' waiting room, dentists, train station, anywhere where humans, congregate, and everyone is looking at their mobile phone? Nobody's talking to each other, or almost no one, and nobody's doing nothing, because the thing is, we are sort of conditioned in our society that doing nothing is a bad thing. How many times have people said, well, don't just sit there, do something. Well, actually, there is another phrase that says, don't just do something, sit there. Because that's when your creative thinking will come to the fore. A.A. Milne, the writer and poet who most famously created and wrote Winnie the Pooh, he said, and he's not alone, don't underestimate the value of doing nothing. Doing nothing is good for you. Being on your own and being in the zone on your bike is good for you. So if you haven't done it before, I would strongly urge you to try it. You don't need to go for long. Do 3 days in France. Do a week in Spain. If necessary, go north and go to Scotland. I'm talking about north from the UK. The advantage of going to a foreign place is that you're going to see things that you don't typically see at home, and that's one of the beauties of motorcycle touring, is that you're seeing stuff that you don't typically see, and it's just more interesting. If you went to Scotland, what are you going to do? People will want to talk about independence, if you can understand what they're saying. No, it's a joke. But go somewhere foreign. Go for 3 days to France. Go for a week to Spain. Just do something different. But think about solo motorcycling. Don't think you can't do it, and don't be frightened of it. There's really nothing out there to be scared of. So that's my thoughts on solo motorcycle touring. I hope you've mildly enjoyed this video and it's giving you some food for thought. You know, we've got 2024 around the corner. It's December, at the end of December 23. We've got a new year ahead of us. Lots of exciting opportunities, lots of possibilities out there. So let's use them. You know, grasp it, run with it. Just do it because it will do you good. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up, that would be great, and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to listen to me talk more in the shed, that would be great. In the meantime, ride safe and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.